Welcome to this explainer. Today we're going to explore how one ancient genius basically single-handedly dragged humanity's understanding of the Earth out of the realm of storytelling and straight into rigorous science. We're talking about a time when the shape and size of our world were completely shrouded in mystery, and how one guy changed all of that forever. So let's dive right into a massive, seemingly impossible question. How do you measure a planet without ever leaving Egypt? It sounds crazy, right? But this was actually solved over 2,200 years ago, using literally nothing but shadows and some basic geometry. Just imagine looking up at the sky and wondering exactly how big the rock you're standing on really is. Now imagine figuring out that colossal puzzle without a telescope, without a satellite, and without even leaving your home country. This shift represents a fundamental turning point in human history. You see, before Eratosthenes, geography was basically just descriptive folklore. It was a mix of travelers' tales, mythical monsters, and local legends. But after his groundbreaking work, geography became measurable, testable, and deeply scientific. He literally replaced those ancient myths with definitive mathematical laws, building the very foundation for how we understand space itself. Which brings us to Section 1, the ultimate Renaissance man. Eratosthenes had a truly extraordinary life trajectory. He was born around 276 BCE in Cyrene, which was a major center of Greek learning over in North Africa. As a young man, he moved to the intellectual hub of Athens to study philosophy, poetry, and math, and he was brilliant. By around 245 BCE, his reputation had grown so huge that he was propelled straight to the absolute pinnacle of the ancient academic world, Alexandria, Egypt. And once he got there, well, he wasn't exactly just checking out books. As chief librarian under Pharaoh Ptolemy III, he became the primary gatekeeper of human knowledge. Managing the Library of Alexandria meant organizing hundreds of thousands of fragile papyrus manuscripts, carefully tutoring the royal children, and amazingly, somehow still finding the time and energy to conduct his own groundbreaking original research across multiple fields of study. Now, this rapid ascent definitely sparked some fierce ancient rivalry. His critics dismissively called him beta, essentially labeling him second best, just because he studied everything rather than specializing in one single discipline. But his supporters, they had a far better name for him. They called him Pentathlos. Just like the athletes who competed in the pentathlon, they rightly saw him as an intellectual decathlete, an all-around champion of knowledge who just couldn't be boxed into a single subject. Let's move on to Section 2, measuring Earth with shadows. So how did he do it? By treating the Earth as a gigantic geometry puzzle, he relied on a wonderfully simple observation. He knew that at noon on the summer solstice, down in the city of Syene, the sun was directly overhead, casting absolutely no shadows. But up in Alexandria, located further north, a stick placed in the ground did cast a shadow. He measured the angle of that shadow to be 7.2 degrees. And here is the absolute genius part. 7.2 degrees is exactly 1/50th of a full 360-degree circle. The math to solve this is just remarkably elegant. If 7.2 degrees represents 1/50th of the globe, well, then you just take the distance of that 1/50th piece, the 5,000 stadia stretching between Alexandria and Syene, and you multiply it by 50. 50 times 5,000 gives us 250,000 stadia for the total circumference of the Earth. Simple, right? But to truly appreciate this achievement, we kind of need to translate that ancient unit of measurement into modern terms. When we convert his measurement of stadia, it comes out to roughly 40,000 kilometers. Take a second to really let that sink in. 40,000 kilometers. That is a staggering number to even comprehend, let alone actually calculate, for a man armed with nothing but a stick, a shadow, and his own raw intellect. And the accuracy? It is truly mind-blowing. Eratosthenes estimated about 39,000 to 40,000 kilometers. Today, our modern satellite data pinpoints the equatorial circumference at exactly 40,075 kilometers. No telescopes, no space stations, and without ever leaving his desk, his shadow-based calculation was astonishingly close to absolute perfection. Let's jump into Section 3, inventing modern geography. You literally cannot study geography without Eratosthenes, and that's because he's the scholar who actually invented the word itself. He fused the Greek word geo, meaning earth, with graphia, meaning description or writing. By doing this, he took the study of our world and formalized it into a named, structured science, bringing serious order to what was previously just a chaotic collection of stories. He then went on to completely transform spatial positioning by creating the very first scientific world map. He started by laying down a basic grid over the known world using parallels and meridians. Then, by using relative coordinates and estimated distances, he meticulously mapped out regions stretching all the way from Europe, down through Africa, and way across to India. He set the stage for how we navigate today. He didn't stop there. He further conceptualized the globe by slicing it into 5 distinct climate zones. He mapped out 2 frigid zones at the poles, 2 temperate zones, and 1 hot, torrid zone wrapped right around the equator. This was revolutionary stuff because he was proving that nature actually follows logical, mathematical patterns, not just the random whims of the gods. What's truly fascinating is how he gathered his data for these maps. Take his work on India, for example. Eratosthenes never actually set foot in the country. Yet, through his masterful synthesis of reports from merchants, travelers, and soldiers returning from Alexander the Great's campaigns, he accurately grasped its true shape. He mapped it as a large peninsula complete with the Indus and Ganges rivers and the Himalayas, all from the comfy confines of his library. Okay, moving on to section 4, an enduring scientific legacy. You see, his mind touched almost every single corner of ancient science. He estimated the Earth's axial tilt, which gave us a real understanding of the seasons. He pioneered scientific chronological dating, figuring out timelines for long-past historical events like the fall of Troy and the first Olympic Games. And perhaps most famously outside of geography, his sieve of Eratosthenes, an incredibly efficient mathematical algorithm for finding prime numbers, is actually still taught in computer science and math classes worldwide today. All this ancient history matters directly to you right now. The basic grids he sketched out on papyrus, well, they are the direct ancestors of the GPS navigation currently sitting in your smartphone. His climate zones birthed modern climatology. Measuring the Earth gave us geodesy. He built the absolute foundation for modern cartography. His intellect is quite literally woven into the fabric of our modern world. But as we know, all great lives come to an end, and his was particularly poignant. Tragically, in his old age, Eratosthenes began to lose his sight. For a thinker who was so incredibly visual and observant, a man whose entire life was dedicated to studying and mapping the physical world, blindness was absolutely devastating. Ancient sources tell us that, unable to continue his research, he chose to end his own life by voluntarily fasting, passing away at the age of 80 around 194 BCE. His work, however, completely outlived him, fundamentally altering human understanding. The Roman writer Pliny the Elder perfectly summarized his monumental legacy with 4 powerful words. The world was grasped. It was a beautiful acknowledgement of his ultimate victory over those critics who once dared to call him second best. He didn't just study the world, he mathematically conquered it. I want to leave you with this final thought to ponder as we wrap up this explainer. If an ancient librarian, armed with nothing more than a stick, a shadow, and relentless curiosity, could measure the entire globe, what incredible modern mysteries are just waiting for today's Eratosthenes to solve? The spirit of curious, testable science that he founded is exactly what will continue to map our future. Thanks for exploring with me today.